Good morning, it's Gemma here from GemMacrame, and today we are going to be making one of these absolutely beautiful macrame placemats. So these are made using just 2 knots and they are lovely and relaxing to make. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first thing you're going to need for this project is some macrame cord. This one is a 3mm cotton cord in single twist. You can use single twist or a 3 ply for this project because you can brush them out and make them all nice and fluffy around the edges. You're also going to need a nice sharp pair of scissors, measuring tape, a brush to brush out your fluffy fringe after you've finished, and some pins to pin it in place. Plus I have got a macrame board as well. So apologies for the appearance of this one. It is well loved, as you can see. It's got some pen marks on there, and the grid that was originally on there has now kind of worn out, but these are absolutely fantastic. I got this from Amazon and they're really good. They're self-healing and they're really good for pinning your cord onto. Plus it's got these sort of serrated edges as well, so that you can tuck your string in if you're doing a project where you're sort of knotting down. It can hold it in place for you. So that's what you're going to need. Let's crack on. So the first piece of string we're going to cut is going to be 5 meters long, but this is the part that's going to go in the middle and it's going to go round. So we're going to be knotting on. This is going to be our filler string. So the best way to do this, I find, is to get the end of your string, match it up to the end of your measuring tape. I'm actually going to measure it out to 125, like so. And then I'm going to fold it in half because that will then give me 250. There we go. And then I'm going to simply fold it in half and fold it back on itself again, which will then give me the 5 meters. Okay, and then we're simply going to just cut that off. So with the 5 meter piece of cord, what you're going to do is we're going to measure out to 125 again. There we go. So I've got 125 centimeters there, and that is now going to be my new halfway point. So I've got 125 one way, and then you've got the rest of the cord the other way. And what I'm going to do is with my pins, I'm just going to place a pin right at that point there, so that I know where the middle is. So I've got my 125 centimeters over to my left, and then the rest of the 5 meters is over to the right. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a little loop with the long side, make it into a circle so that it crosses over at that point where it says 125. Okay, so we've got it in a nice little loop there, and we've got the point there so we know where the 125 is. So I'm now back to my ball of cord, and I'm now going to cut 5 pieces of cord that are 2 meters long each. Okay. So again, to make your life easier, what I do is I measure up against the measuring tape, and I'm going to measure down to 100, which is there. And then I'm literally just going to fold it in half at 100 and fold it back on itself so that I know then it's 200. And I'm going to give it a little snip. And then what I do is I just wrap it around my fingers for a moment and just place it to the side. So then I've got my little pile, so I know how many I've done. So let's cut 4 more pieces at cut 4 more pieces at 2 meters. Okay, so I've cut my 5 pieces of 2 meter cord. So I'm going to take 1 piece at a time. So I'll start with this one. I'm just going to unravel it and find the 2 ends. There we go. And then I'm going to keep the ends together, and I'm just going to find the center of the string. So here it is. So you can see here you've got a little loop. That's the center of your string. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually thread this underneath this loop here. So the very first one I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put it, if I zoom in, I'm actually going to put it on the bit where it actually, the main filler string crosses over, and this is going to secure it in place. So I'm going to literally put it underneath the string like this, just like so, and then I'm going to fold the loop part over the top of the filler string like that, and then I'm going to pull the 2 end pieces through the middle, all the way through. There we go. and then I'm going to pull it tight. So this is called a reverse lark's head knot. So you want to try your best to keep the loop as big as it was and keep the centre part where it was as well. Don't worry too much if it goes a little bit skewy, that's fine. There we go, so that's our first cord popped on. So now I'm going to take the next piece of string. So I'm going to take this one here, and again I've already got the two ends together there, so I'm just going to feed it through my hands to find the middle, which will be my little loop part. There we go. Now the rest of the strings are going to be attached to the loop of our filler string here, so it doesn't need to cross over the two strings, it's just going to go on the single loop here. So again, with our loop of string here, we're going to go underneath. So the middle part, the loop is here in the middle of our ring, and we're going to fold it over, and then we're going to bring the two strings here through the loop. So we're going to bring it all the way through, and then I normally just pop a couple of fingers either side and pull it through so it goes nice and tight. It doesn't really matter at this point about placement, you just want the strings to go on your filler string, so on this part here, so it doesn't matter where it goes because we're going to pull it tight in a moment anyway. Okay, so now all of our 2 meter strings have been attached to our filler string. What we're going to do is we're going to pull the loop tight. So we've got this end here, this is our 125 centimeter cord, and this is our longer part, the 5 meters. So we're going to pull them both at the same time. I'm going to take the pin out here as well, just move it out of the way. So we're going to keep pulling both sides as equally as you can, but ideally you actually want to pull more through the longer side if you can. So you're going to pull it nice and tight, and then once it's gone tight you can then pull your strings through a bit more just to tighten them knots up even more. There we go, another little pull there, and there we are ready to get started. Exciting times. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring my pin back, and I'm just going to place a pin just on that side there, and then if you want to you can go and get a second pin just to pin it on the other side, just to keep it nice and still while we are working. So as I said at the beginning, the first string that we used, the 5 meter string, is your filler string. So this is this part here, and as you can see it's rather long, and it's going to get in a bit of a tangle. So what we can do is we can just fold it up just to make life easier for ourselves while we're working. So what I do is I'm just going to feed the string through my hand to untangle it and just to find the end. So it's got a little bit tangled already. Just going to untangle that, keep feeding it through till I get to the end. There we go, so I've got the ends there. So what I do is I fold it up like so. Keep going until you've got maybe, I don't know, 50 centimeters left, something like that. And then I'm just going to literally tie this in a soft knot, just like so. So it just keeps it out of the way and untangled while I'm working on it. Okay, so the beauty of working on a macrame board is that we can actually move the board around with us, so it's quite handy for working on. Obviously, what you can do as well is you can stick some tape on the table, perhaps pop a little bit of masking tape over the top of the middle knots. It's just going to be a little bit harder. I mean, you can obviously move the table around, but it might just be a bit harder. Obviously, find a way that works for you. So we've got our filler string here. You are going to work round to the right, so we're going to go round in a circular motion. It's always going to be the same knot, so once you've learnt that knot and you've mastered it, you'll be an absolute pro. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move my mat round slightly so that I'm at the right angle. Here we go. So This is my 5 meter string here, my filler string. So I'm going to start with the very first string next to it on its right. I'm just going to move the others out of the way for now. So what you want to do is with your filler string, we're going to show it the way to go. So we're using this as a guide. We're going to be knotting onto this string. Okay, so you've got your first string, it's going over the top of our first string. Okay, we're going to bring the string over the top of our filler string so it makes like a D shape, and then we're going to thread the string around the back and out through this loop that we've created. So we're pulling it through, and then we're going to slide it all the way up as tight as you can. So as you can see there, there's no gaps between that one and that one. It's nice and tight, and we're actually going to do that twice. So it's called a double half hitch knot because we do each knot twice each time. So again, you're going to use your string to go over the top of the filler string. So again, you've got that nice little loop there ready to go back through. We're going to tuck the string around the back and out through this gap, just like so. So it looks like that. And then you're going to slide it just like that and pull it tight. And that is your first knot done. Okay, so take your time with this. There's no rush. That is your first knot done. We're literally going to do the same thing, working round in an anti-clockwise direction. So I'm moving it again a tiny little bit more. I'm going to bring my next string down. So that's this one here. So see here, I'm starting with the string underneath my filler string, and I'm keeping my filler string as close to this as I can because I want it to be a nice tight circular pattern. Okay, so this is our next string here. It's again going to go over the top of my filler string. There we go. It's going to come around the back and it's going to come out through the loop. There we go. And again, I'm going to slide it up. And if you hold your filler string nice and taut as well, that will help it keep its shape. So see here again, there's no gaps there. I've kept it nice and tight. Okay, and then we're going to go over the top again. Again, making sure we leave that nice little loop bit here. We're going to come around the back. There we go, through the middle, and we're sliding all the way up, pulling it nice and tight. And that is 2 knots done. Okay, so again, moving the board round a bit there, and we're bringing down the next string so we can see that this is our next string here. So we're starting with it underneath our filler string. Okay, then we're going to go over the top of our filler string, leaving our little gap, around the back of our filler string, through the middle, and we're sliding all the way up. Use your thumb here or your nail to push it into the right place, keeping it nice and tight. Okay, we're going to go around again. We're going to go over the top of our filler string, round the back, out through the middle, and we're sliding it all the way up, pulling it nice and tight. So this also makes life easier, the fact that you've got this in a knot, so that you know that this is always your filler string, just in case you get confused with which string is which. So you know that this one is the one that we're knotting onto, and all the other strings going around the outside are knotting onto this string. Okay. So we've gone round once now, so we're going to continue to do that continuously round, basically until you get it to the size that you want it to be, or until you run out of string, whichever one comes first. There are going to be occasions where we're going to have to add strings, so I'm just going to keep going for a moment until I get to a gap, and I will show you what we do to add a string. Okay, that didn't take long actually. So if you can see here, there's a gap of at least 2 rings between our last knot and where our next string is. So that's a bit too big of a gap. If we were to do that knot, it would pull it a little bit too tight, and it would mean that our placemat wouldn't lie flat. It would start to curve upwards, and obviously we don't want that. We want a nice flat placemat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get back my original ball of string, and I'm actually going to, rather than giving you exact amounts, I'm going to ask you to measure it up against the last string you used. So I'm finding the end of the last string that I used to knot with. I'm placing my next string next to it, and I'm just going to measure them up to the top there, and then where that point meets the knots, I'm just going to fold that back on itself, and that is the length of string that I'm going to use. So to add this to our placemat, I've got the middle part here, the loop bit, and we're going to do the exact same knot that we did when we first popped it on our little loop at the bottom. So here's my filler string. I know that because of the big knot. So I'm going to lift that up. I'm going to put this new string underneath my filler string. And again, I'm going to fold it over, and I'm going to pull the 2 ends through. I'm going to pull that tight, and I'm going to slide that up. And then if you see here, it looks exactly the same as a double half hitch knot. So that's perfect. Let's add in some extra strings, and then literally that bit is done. We're going to move on to our next string to then do another double half hitch knot. So again, we're going over the top, around the back, through the middle, tight. There we go. So you see, that's added in perfectly now. You wouldn't even know that that was a new string. We're going over the top again, around the back, through and up, pull tight, and there we go. We can keep going. So every time you come across a gap that is 2 knots across or more, so this one is fine because there's only 1 between, so that will make an absolute fine knot. But if you get to a gap, that's where you're going to need to add a string. Okay, so I've now finished knotting. I've got probably about 20 centimeters left of my string. So you could go a little bit further if you wanted to, but it depends how long you want your fringe to be at the end. So I'm going to actually leave it at this point. The next job I'm going to do is trim around the edges. So you want to trim them a little bit longer than you're actually going to want them to be for your finished piece, so that you've got space to brush them out and then give them another little trim. So let's get cutting. Okay, so I've now trimmed all my edges. Don't worry if they're not all exactly the same length, it doesn't matter at this point. But the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pet brush and I'm going to brush out all the edges so that they go nice and fluffy. For a single twist cord, it's fine, you can just start brushing, but if you're using something like a 3-ply cord, you need to unravel your cord first before you start brushing. It'll just make your life a little bit easier. Okay, so I've brushed out my fringe. It's all lovely and fluffy and ready to be trimmed. There are a couple of options that you have at this point. So you could, if you really wanted to, you could spray some sort of stiffening spray onto your strings so that they stay nice and straight, because obviously this is a twisted string, so it's going to want to return to its twisted form. Eventually, after a while of brushing it, it will stay straight. But if you want to get there a little bit quicker, you could iron it flat, and you could stick a piece of felt on the back if you wanted to, for all your fibres to stick onto. You can also use a steamer to straighten your strings. It's totally up to you, whatever look you want to go for. I'm actually going to leave it as it is for now, and I'm going to start trimming. So I'm not 100% sure how long I want my fringe to be just yet. So I'm going to cut it a little bit longer than I want it to be to start with. And then I'm going to go for there. Again, you could also be really exact. You could measure all the way along, make sure you're cutting your strings all exactly the same length. I'm going to eyeball it for the first time round and see how I get on, and then we will go from there. Okay, so this is how it's looking so far for its first go round, having a little trim. Obviously it's not completely equal, as you can probably tell, but that's fine, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in again and just have a little trim up where it needs it, and make sure that it gets a bit more equal. Quite like how it's looking so far. It looks a little bit like a lion in its mane because of the colour that I've used. So that'd be quite cute if I added some little, maybe some little felt features in the middle or something. I could make it into like a little lion placemat, which would be cute. But yeah, I'm now going to go in again and have a little tidy up. Okay, I'm all done with my final cutting, and this is what the final piece looks like. I'm really happy with how this one has turned out. Obviously, if you're struggling to get a nice perfect shape, I know that I haven't got a perfect shape. There's probably plenty of flaws that you can see on here, but you could always use like a template. You could perhaps cut out a circle in a piece of cardboard and place it over the top and cut it, or as I said before, you could go around with a measuring tape and sort of measure each section just to make sure that it's all the same length. It's totally up to you. So I'm really happy with this at the moment. I might do a couple more trims here and there once I've taken it off and had a proper look at it, but this is my finished piece, and yeah, I'm all done. Here we go, we have the finished piece all done, ready to go on your dining room table. You can make several of these, as many as you want. You can make them all in the same colour, or you could make lots of different colours that complement each other. But I'm really happy with this, and I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. If you'd like to share with me pictures of what you make, I would love to see them. So check out the description box below for all my social media handles. But yeah, hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I will see you very soon in the next one. Bye!